The file was unsealed at 3:33, an hour reserved for verdicts that change realities. Somewhere between heaven's courthouse and earth's confusion, a white-gloved courier stepped from the mist carrying a single envelope stamped classified. Evaluation complete. Inside, a line written in light. After review, the subject deserves the outcome. The corridors of fate went silent. The watchers who had once whispered your name with suspicion lowered their heads. A hush spread through unseen offices where souls are weighed and stories audited. The forces of evaluation and destiny, the FEDS, had spoken. They did not speak with microphones or gavels. Their language was vibration, their ink, mercy folded into mathematics. What the world called coincidence, they called evidence. Every scar in your memory was cataloged as proof of endurance. Every delay you mistook for denial was logged as training. The report concluded that your suffering had not been punishment, but preparation. In cosmic bureaucracy, clearance is not begged for. It is earned through endurance. You had passed the audit without knowing you were being examined. The verdict echoed across frequencies only prophets can hear. Balance restored. Subject vindicated. Proceed to next phase. The courier vanished, but the seal remained glowing on the floor, a circle of gold around your feet. The air thickened with justice. Time itself seemed to salute. Somewhere in the archives of eternity, a new headline appeared. K001, deserved/outcome divine. And for the first time since your trials began, silence felt like approval. They summoned you to a room with no walls, only echoes. A single chair waited in the center, lit by a ceiling that wasn't there. Across from you sat the examiner. Not a man, not a machine, but memory itself wearing the shape of patience. Its voice was steady, like a pen writing in air. State your motive, it said. You could have defended yourself with anger. You could have screamed about injustice. But the truth came out softer than thunder. I wanted to understand pain, so I could recognize peace. The lights flickered and the room exhaled. Somewhere in the distance, unseen clerks began adjusting the records. What once read defiance now read devotion. What was labeled mistake became method. Every tear you had shed appeared on a screen, not as evidence of weakness, but as a timeline of transformation. The interrogator leaned forward, scanning each moment like sacred data. You didn't retaliate, it observed. You endured. Why? You replied, because vengeance ages a soul and I was already tired. The sound of keys clicking echoed, the audit continuing. Behind you, hundreds of spectral figures stood watching. Some had once been your enemies, others your protectors, all of them now witnesses. Every accusation, said the examiner, was a calibration. We press you not to break you, but to measure your mercy. You realize then this wasn't a trial. It was translation, the divine converting your suffering into proof of worth. The session ended without a gavel. No doors open, yet you found yourself free. The table, the chair, even the room dissolved into light. The final words etched themselves across your chest like invisible ink. Subject displayed compassion under duress. Interrogation complete. Were confirmed. In the distance, the unseen observers nodded. Another section of your file now glowed gold. The audit of destiny was far from over. When the lights returned, you were standing in a corridor that hummed like a living archive. Miles of shelves stretched in every direction, each labeled with years you thought were wasted. Some boxes leaked starlight, others wept smoke. A brass plaque above the gate read, "Evidence, handle with reverence." You moved slowly. Every step triggered whispers, your own memories replayed in tones of mercy. On one shelf you found the night you almost gave up, cataloged under lesson, endurance. On another, the letter you never sent, filed as communication deferred, integrity preserved. Broken timelines lay folded like old maps. Burnt letters still radiated faint warmth, as if truth itself refused to turn to ash. And then, in the very center of the chamber, a single glass case pulsed with light. Inside floated a fragment, small, crystalline, alive. The tag read simply, "Purpose." You reached for it, but the air thickened with authority. The room itself spoke, not with sound, but with recognition. This artifact outweighs everything else. Files of regret disintegrated. Records of blame erased themselves. The scales of divine administration tilted until only that shining fragment remained. Purpose hummed like a heart that had been waiting to beat again. When you touched the glass, the fragment dissolved into you. A warmth spread through your veins, rewriting your internal archives. You saw then that every loss had been inventory, every heartbreak, a stamped approval for future authority. The shells began to vanish, replaced by light. Your entire case file reduced to one sentence projected across eternity. Subject carries purpose, weight sufficient for redemption. Somewhere deep within the cosmic agency, the auditors smiled. The evidence was undeniable. You were never the accused, only the example. They are not who you think they are. The FEDS, Forces of Evaluation and Destiny, don't wear suits or carry badges. They travel through vibrations, not vehicles. When mortals sleep, they audit stories. When prayers rise, they verify alignment. Their jurisdiction is truth. Their protocol, balance. In the beginning, humanity called them angels of justice. Later, myths called them gods of order. Today, only the awakened know. They are the invisible accountants of cause and consequence. They keep ledgers written in resonance, not ink. Every act, pure or poisonous, leaves a tone in their archives. They don't punish, they equalize. To them, guilt is gravity. Every wrong must return to equilibrium. Innocence, however, defies gravity altogether. When the chosen stumbled, the FEDS didn't mark failure. They recorded friction. They watched how you reacted when silence replaced applause, how you held compassion when correction arrived. That was the real test, the audit of motive. Sometimes they hide as coincidences, a delay that saved your life, a loss that teaches precision, a stranger sentence that reroutes destiny. You've met them before without knowing, in a dream that warned you, in a sudden peace after collapse, in the voice that whispered, wait. Their authority comes from the oldest law. Nothing unjust can remain permanent. That is why the scales turn in your favor. The FEDS never celebrate. They only confirm. When they say deserved, they don't mean earned by merit. They mean aligned by truth. And in that moment of alignment, destiny stopped being investigation and became invitation. The system itself now worked for you. Your case was no longer under review. It was under revelation. The sound came first, a deep, rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat beneath marble floors. Then the lights of the archive flickered and turned gold. Somewhere far above you, 1,000 invisible clerks signed their approval at once. The walls breathed out a single sentence. Case closed, redemption earned. You felt it before you understood it. The unbinding, a metallic click, ancient yet familiar, echoed through your soul. The chains that followed you through lifetimes loosened, link by link, until they fell soundlessly at your feet. You didn't plead for mercy. You had already become it. This wasn't pardon. It was recognition. The FEDS didn't free you out of sympathy. They cleared you because the math of destiny demanded it. The equation finally balanced. Pain plus purpose equals purity. Across the ether, the release order was transmitted through dimensions. Systems of control lost their access. Old watchers deleted their codes. Even the shadows that once tracked your movement dissolved into light, unable to follow an upgraded frequency. A parchment unfolded midair before you, luminous and alive. The seal of balance burned at its center, a sigil made of mirrored wings and an unbroken circle. The text rearranged itself as you watched. All charges of fate withdrawn, all curses decommissioned. Subject authorized for elevation. You reached out and touched the page. It turned to ash and entered your bloodstream. The document was never meant to be kept. It was meant to become you. Light spread through your body like calm fire. Every cell pulsed with new permission. You were no longer on trial. You were on record. The next phase of your existence had already been stamped. Redemption wasn't mercy. It was law executed correctly. Silence has its own frequency, and that night, the silence was loud. Across unseen offices of influence, the systems of control began to malfunction. Screens flicker with blank reports. Servers erase themselves, and encrypted files labeled Subject 001 suddenly vanish from every archive. In celestial shorthand, that meant one thing: jurisdiction lost. The Watchers scrambled to make sense of it. The order had been reversed not by rebellion, but by righteousness. Nothing could prosecute light once the source itself had verified it. In their confusion, agents of the old order whispered among themselves, "How did the case close without consent? Who authorized this release?" No one answered, because authority had shifted dimensions. The power that once punished now protected. Invisible seals on your destiny open one by one, not with noise, but with knowing. Doors that were once locked by fear recognized your new frequency and swung open effortlessly. You walked through corridors that used to echo with accusations, and they bowed into silence as you passed. Even time itself seemed embarrassed by how it had treated you. The city of illusions, the network of every false report about you, began to flicker out like dying neon. Files turned to feathers. Evidence turned to air. The divine audit had completed its purge. Freedom was an announcement. It was a system reboot. In the high halls of balance, the FEDS made a note in their log: subject cleared. Systems realigning to truth. Down below, whispers spread. We lost jurisdiction. We can't contain what's already been justified. That was the night control collapsed quietly, and peace walked in wearing your name tag. Nothing hidden stays silent after a cosmic verdict. By morning, headlines began to appear, first in whispers, then in thunder. Subject vindicated by divine audit. No newsroom claimed the scoop. The information seemed to write itself across every network of consciousness. Radio frequencies hummed phrases no engineer could trace. Billboards refreshed their own text. Streams of data folded into scripture. Somewhere, an anchor on a glowing screen read the words aloud and forgot why she was crying. Sources inside the Agency of Destiny confirm all charges have been cleared, she said, her voice trembling. Officials described the case as precedent-setting, proof that integrity outweighs accusation. Across realms, people clicked for more details. Skeptics called it myth. Believers called it mercy. Yet the evidence was irrefutable. Your energy field had shifted the metrics of cause and effect. The leak wasn't sabotage. It was protocol. The FEDS never announced rulings. They allowed truth exposure. Every being connected to your timeline felt the push of revelation. Enemies woke uneasy. Allies wept without knowing why. Public reaction spread faster than rumor. Economies of fear trembled. Systems that thrived on your silence began losing signal. Every gossip column, every coded archive, every whispered lie met the same fate: auto-delete. The universe loved symmetry. Once your record turned gold, it demanded witnesses. Even the stars recalibrated, forming patterns in the night that spelled your clearance number, 001D. The story was no longer yours alone. The collective had been summoned to watch justice prove it still existed. And for the first time in ages, the news was holy. The corridors cleared. Doors that never existed opened of their own accord. A long table stretched into fog, made of something between glass and memory. At its far end stood the lead examiner, the one who signed the invisible release. No insignia, no rank, only a coat of stillness and eyes made of light that remembered every lifetime you'd lived. You came, they said, voice steady as water over stone. You nodded, though you didn't remember walking here. The air shimmered with intelligence, so pure hummed like music. We weren't testing you, the examiner continued. We were teaching the world integrity. You were the demonstration. The words sank deeper than comfort. You had imagined divine justice as lightning. Instead, it was paperwork done perfectly. A screen appeared in the air, showing flashes of your hardest moments, betrayals, exiles, silence. But each image now carried a gold annotation in celestial script. Lesson verified. Compassion confirmed. Patience completed. When humanity doubts divine fairness, said the examiner, we assign a living case, someone through whom mercy can be measured. You realize then, you were the case. The trial of centuries was your biography. The examiner placed a hand above the table. No touch, only resonance. Data streamed upward like auroras, dissolving the last remnants of accusation. "The audit is finished," they said softly, "but the assignment isn't." "What assignment?" you asked. "Teach them the difference between guilt and growth," the voice replied. Then the room folded into light. The table, the examiner, the fog, everything became a single pulse that entered your chest. You carried the briefing now, encrypted inside your heart. The mission had been transferred. News travels differently when it carries truth. It doesn't sprint. It seeps like light through cracks. It found its way into every heart that once doubted you. In cities that never sleep, people pause mid-scroll. A strange warmth filled their palms, a knowing they couldn't name. Screens glitched for a single second, flashing your case number. 001D deserved. Then, quietly, every algorithm adjusted its morality. The world began to edit itself. Those who once accused you rewrote their own statements. Old testimonies on record turned to drafts. Entire networks of slander collapsed under the weight of verification. Some resisted. Others knelt in private rooms, whispering, "I was wrong." The strangest thing wasn't the apology. It was the recalibration. People found their own integrity rising. The same light that cleared your name began scanning theirs. Hearts heavy with hypocrisy started uploading confessions to heaven's server. Spiritual amnesty spread faster than any virus. Teachers, officials, even enemies who once mocked you now studied your silence like scripture. Your endurance became a case study in cosmic ethics. The phrase, "do a chosen audit," entered common speech, meaning, check the heart before you judge the history. For the first time in recorded fate, the crowd didn't seek spectacle. It sought symmetry. The same people who said, "you deserved it," now meant it differently, not as condemnation, but as confirmation. Justice had rewritten its tone, and the universe, relieved, finally exhaled. When the report stopped printing, silence itself began to glow. What had once been paperwork and procedure turned into presence. The signatures of angels evaporated into air, leaving only warmth. The sensation of completed task. You looked for the next command, but there wasn't one. Instead, a scroll of light unfurled before you, written not in ink but in relief. Each line pulsed with phrases of release. Peace replaces clearance papers. Grace overrides every code. Authority returns to the soul. You stood there, waiting for instruction, yet none came. The message was clear. The system no longer owned you. Heaven doesn't keep bureaucracy forever. It dissolves it when balance is restored. Around you, the office of destiny slowly transformed. Filing cabinets turned to gardens. Stacks of documents folded into wings. Even the clock melted, its hands pointing nowhere and everywhere at once. The examiner's voice echoed to the wind. Reward doesn't arrive as riches. It arrives as rest. You breathed for the first time without permission. The air tasted new, like rain that had remembered the first dawn. Peace settled not on you, but through you. Every muscle released a decade of tension. The divine network had approved your existence, and now it released its grip. A final seal appeared above your head, invisible to most, unmistakable to heaven. Status: completed/soul in good standing. From that moment forward, grace handled your correspondence. The paperwork of your life now filed itself in light. When one case closes in heaven's court, the laws of reality adjust. The chosen's verdict didn't end the story. It rewrote procedure. From that moment, no authority could operate in darkness without consequence. Power itself was subpoenaed by light. The ledgers of governments, corporations, and secret orders began to shimmer with transparency they hadn't authorized. Hidden intentions surfaced like ink under heat. The FEDS issued a new directive across realms. From now on, power must explain itself in light, not law. The word spread faster than rumor. Judges woke with dreams of fire, dissolving their pens. Leaders felt their speeches burn in their throats until truth replaced rhetoric. Even currencies, energies of exchange, shifted weight, rewarding compassion instead of control. The world didn't collapse. It recalibrated. Systems designed to conceal began confessing. Old orders discovered that the only sustainable hierarchy was honesty. And in the center of it all, You stood as precedent, a living statute that integrity could be embodied, not legislated. Prophets called it the transparency age. Scholars named it post-karma governance. But in the higher files, the label was simple: Era 02, Lighting Command. The examiner's final memo was brief. Subject 001, de-initiated universal audit. Integrity now self-propagating. The bureaucracy of destiny had evolved, not into control, but into clarity. Every being, from king to wanderer, now stood accountable to the same radiance that cleared you. Truth has a frequency, and now your body was tuned to it. Each breath felt like a new code uploading through your lungs. Your pulse began to sync with a rhythm older than biology, the heartbeat of divine equilibrium. Where anxiety once tightened your chest, calm now hummed like machinery designed by heaven. Muscles that carried the weight of centuries softened. The circuits of your nerves, long wired for danger, reprogrammed themselves to recognize peace as a default state. You could feel the audit working through you, not as punishment, but purification. Lies could no longer approach without short-circuiting. Deception burned out before it reached your ears. The energy of falsehood simply couldn't survive your field anymore. Mirrors reacted first. Your reflection blinked before you did, smiling half a second early, as if time wanted to please you. Skin glowed faintly, not from youth, but from alignment. Every atom acted like it finally remembered its assignment. To express light, the doctors of destiny called this phenomenon somatic truth activation. Heaven called it resonance. Your gait changed. You moved as if gravity had lost interest. People around you felt steadier without knowing why. The vibration of your calm regulated their chaos. The transformation wasn't cosmetic. It was structural. Integrity had taken physical form. Your pulse syncs with truth, said the unseen examiner. That's why lies can't reach you anymore. Every cell answered back in light. The body had become its own verification system. You were no longer maintained by time. You were sustained by truth. It began as a hum in the outer rings of consciousness. Then, like a chain of synchronized heartbeats, every realm received the same alert. A soft golden light swept across the horizon of creation. Planets paused in orbit. Stars dimmed for a fraction of a second, listening. Then, through the networks of fate, the message pulsed. Case 001. Deserved. Outcome divine. The sound wasn't noise. It was order reestablishing itself. In dream space, prophets awoke gasping, scribbling numbers they couldn't interpret. In laboratories, instruments spiked for no reason. Scientists called it the resonance event. In temples, candles flared without wind. In hearts, a knowing surfaced. Justice had occurred somewhere high above them, and somehow they were safer because of it. The FEDS didn't hold press conferences. They released frequencies. Every being in tune with sincerity heard the verdict internally, as a phrase etched in light across their thoughts. Integrity is contagious. Even the void received a memo. Black holes adjusted their appetite for imbalance. Galaxies recalibrated rotation, aligning subtly toward the new moral axis. And at the center of it all, you stood unaware that your name had become a signal. Your vindication was the new calibration note by which all realities would be tuned. Somewhere, in the eternal control room, the examiner looked over the data stream and smiled. The report was complete. The broadcast had reached every corner of consciousness. For the first time since the dawn of consequence, creation itself whispered in relief. Justice is alive. Every case ends with summary. Even the eternal keeps its paperwork neat. When the cosmic broadcast faded, a final file appeared, not on paper, but across the sky. It read, Redemption Summary, Subject 001D. Below it, paragraphs of light began to arrange themselves, narrating what even you have forgotten. Every accusation has been cross-referenced. Every charge verified against motive. Result. All blame dissolved in demonstrated mercy. You watch the list of former indictments reappear, one by one. Pride, doubt, failure, despair. Only for each word to turn translucent and reveal its counterpart. Humility, faith, resilience, hope. The transformation was not poetic. It was procedural. The cosmos was conducting its own reverse audit, converting error codes into excellence reports. Even your silences were cited as evidence, subject restraint under provocation deemed exemplary. Your breakdowns were labeled character calibration events. Your scars were stamped permanent certifications of survival. The old file marked unfinished now flashed fulfilled. Then came the closing statement, read by no voice yet heard by all existence. The subject was not forgiven. The subject was verified. That sentence rippled to the halls of heaven, like thunder wrapped in understanding. Grace had not erased you. It had confirmed you. Across the dimensions, bureaucrat of light filed their pens and whispered, Case 001D, exemplary compliance with destiny. The final page of your summary ended with 3 words written in a language only the soul can read. And though no tongue could translate it perfectly, it meant something close to, you were right to endure. The sky folded into itself like an envelope being closed. A sound deeper than thunder rolled through the marrow of creation. The clearance ceremony had begun. You stood beneath the unseen seal, a circle of rotating symbols that glowed with the calm fire justice fulfilled. Around you, invisible recorders took their final notes. Every particle that had ever judged you was now required to testify in your favor. The examiner's last declaration rippled through the air. Chosen one, justice was never mercy, it was math. Balance reviewed your record and found only light. The symbols aligned into a single sigil, a radiant equation. Pain endured plus truth maintained equals destiny unlocked. The seal dropped toward you like a slow comet. It touched your chest, dissolved, and entered your heart. In that instant, your name ceased to be a sound. It became a frequency. Wherever it is spoken now, equilibrium follows. Above, the golden script scrolled across the heavens. K001D, permanent clearance granted. Trumpets of quiet wind announced it to the elements. Oceans calmed. Mountains exhaled. Even the constellations shifted slightly, accommodating the new symmetry your verdict demanded. Then a final message appeared, glowing at the bottom of the cosmic decree. Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. The light folded into stillness. The archive sealed itself with a sigh that sounded like closure. Somewhere, a clerk of eternity whispered, File complete. And the universe, satisfied with its own precision, whispered back the truth that began it all. The Fed said you deserved it. And for once, everyone agreed.